Good evening, everyone. So this is the 10th year session of the Basics of Biology course, and just share the I hope the slides are visible. I'll just confirm my submit. More slides visible? Yes. Okay. So today's the 10th TS session of this course, and we will cover the topics whichever have been taught in week 11. And so I am Shobik, and I am integrated PhD student in Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. And so before starting, I'd like to ask if there was any doubt regarding this session. Okay, so as I can see, there is no doubt. So I'll start the session and let's see. So in this session, we talked about homeostasis and how homeostasis is controlled, like by endocrine system, as well as we talked about the excretory system. So homeostasis meaning that it's maintaining a relatively stable internal environment, regardless of any external conditions. That means that if there is any external stress or external disturbance or external perturbation, the body will start to make changes such that there is not much so the body's physiology be stable overall the same. So if you consider, say, body temperature, say this is a degree Celsius, the body temperature, and this is its time. So during the summers, which we go out in a scorching. You know, normal body's temperature is 37. Okay. So during 37 degrees, right? So in scorching it, when you go out, sometimes our body temperature goes maybe around. I'll keep it at okay. So maybe sometimes body temperature should be yeah. So sometimes the body temperature goes maybe somewhere here. Say I call this as 40 degrees Celsius. So what happens generally? Our body temperature, the B cell body temperature should be somewhere like this maybe something like this. It happens. Okay, it doesn't vary much. But suddenly we go out in the heat. So suddenly we go out in the heat, and the body temperature has now have increased from here to suddenly here. Okay, 40 degrees Celsius. Now what will happen? The body temperature will increase. So what will do? Body will release more sweats. Right? So body will release more sweats, and there will be some centers and hypothalamus will send more sweats, and we will try to drink water, or if some response will be there, so that to drink will start to like drink water and water like that. So like that, our body will respond, and then due to that thing, the body temperature is again decreased back, and again it will like go like this. Okay. So that's how the one of the example of how body is controlled homeostasis. Then we'll see another thing is that when there is the maybe hypertonic solution, hypotonic solution there. So generally what happens if you put any cells in a hypertonic solution, cells will shrink. In isotonic solution, of course, there will be thing, and in hypotonic solution, if you put the cells will burst. Now to control this, what people will do, what cells will do? Cells will do something known as osmoregulation. So whenever there is, say, it's very much persistent in the red blood, in case of red blood cells. So what we'll see is sometimes say this is my osmotic pressure. Okay, so I'll just say this is my osmotic pressure. So this is my, in this bar, I have my osmotic pressure. Sorry. In this bar, I have my osmotic pressure. Correct. And here are my osmotic pressure. Okay. Now say this is my natural pressure. Say I'll take this as say this is the correct pressure. So this like ideal pressure. So I'll just call it some X. Okay. Now suddenly it has so if it increases to some point Y or it decreases to some point Z, so this is my ideal one. X is the ideal one. Correct. So now the body by default should maintain something like this osmotic pressure. Okay. But now due to some reason, like say maybe less water is low, or the salt concentration is low. So, some of the salt concentration because we have had less water, or we have suffered some other issues. The cells have become like hypertonic. Okay, the medium has become now the hypertonic. The blood has become hypertonic. So what will happen? This from the water will come out from the blood, correct? So water will come out from the say my osmotic pressure has dropped from here to here. Sorry, my bad. It will increase, correct? Yeah. So the osmotic pressure have increased from here to here, somewhere here. Okay. And so that what will happen now? Is a hypertonic solution in the blood. The osmotic pressure in the blood cells have been increased. So now the body will have some response. So what kidney will do? Kidney will start taking like kidney. What will do? Kidney will start like taking up more water, like filtering less water. So kidney will filter less water, so that it can be water can be retained. So then after some time like this, maybe this, it will again go back and maybe come to here. What happens if it's the opposite? So suddenly you have you have taken lots of water in some places, or you are having some liquid fruit. You have like very high water, very high. You have even in a hypotonic solution, the water volume has been increased. So what will also the osmotic pressure has fallen. So there will be more water will be coming inside, correct? So cells will swell and burst. So what then again kidney will do? Kidney will filter more water. Kidney will filter more water. So else. So again like this, and again it will go. So this is the kind of another type of homeostasis. Then another very common example, what even sir told in this is the insulin. So what happens if so this is my insulin level. Sorry, blood glucose level. Correct. Glucose, or in some other color, I will do in the insulin level in the same graph. It will be easy to understand. So what happens? When the morning, so when you had some food. So this is the time, of course, this is the time access. So you had food. What will happen? The glucose has have gone up. Okay. So generally it is being say around 120. Should have been. Now it has gone up to say 200 blood glucose. So now it should decrease it to a level, right? So what we will now do? So as soon as it starts increasing, our body will say, okay, now it's increasing. So insulin level was now say maybe somewhere low here. So now the insulin level also start rising. As the insulin levels start rising, the blood glucose level also reached a plateau. Then slowly it is going down and coming to the previous level. So as the blood glucose level also is going up and down, the insulin level will also go up. It will decrease. Then sometime back it will also stop. Okay. So like that, now the both the glucose level is constant. So stimulus rise in the blood as glucose level go above set point, and as the glucose level go above the set point. Hello, 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 hello. Oh, am I audible? Hello, hello, hello. Oh. So yeah, so insulin will. So as soon as there is a stimulus rise in the blood, so glucose levels, we had some food. There will be receptor insulin secreting in cells in pancreas. The insulin will be released into the blood, right? And in response, the body cells will start taking up the glucose to convert it to either glycogen or lipids can be converted, right? From glycogen or lipids, correct? So it will require for storing the cells. And then the homeostasis of glucose levels and blood glucose levels return to the set point, and there is again a negative feedback works so that the receptors now stops in secreting the insulin. Correct. So this is how the homeostasis is controlled in the body. So then we understood intrinsic and extrinsic regulation, what I have told, like nervous system or the endocrine. So this can have like a cellular control as well as nervous system or endocrine control. Cellular control, cell itself can have some controlling effect. Like if some cells are dying, it can uh, it can induce the apoptosis for some infection or some other things like controlling the protein synthesis and all. Those are like intrinsic regulation. Extrinsic regulation, so that is controlled by different like transcription factors and all that is inside the cells. The extrinsic regulations are those which sometimes control these intrinsic regulations as well as can go and different cells. So there will be nervous system control as well as the endocrine control, right? And so in case of extrinsic regulations, we have something called the three things, right? Autocrine, paracrine, and endocrine. Correct? So auto means self. So that means the cell, if this is a cell is secreting the molecule and cell will also have the receptors. That okay? So this molecule will go and bind here. These are auto means cell. Paracrine. So I remember is like that. Para means sometimes in Hindi call what? Pados. Correct? Pados में देखना. मतलब the outside our India. outside our just outside our house or in the neighbor. So that means if this is one cell and say this is another cell, so this maybe this cells are secreting some molecules which will go and bind to some receptor in the here some in this cell. So in the Padoswala cells, so the paracrine. Okay, that's how I remember. And the endocrine, it will go far away. Okay, it will go far away. So that means that it is like if it is secreted, say maybe for example, hormones from the pituitary gland secretes on the pituitary and goes and effects in our gonads like testes or ovary. So this is kind of an endocrine action. Okay. So yeah. So then we had the positive feedback system and the negative feedback system. So most of our systems are negative feedback. That means something has gone up. In negative feedback, something has gone up. Let's take it down. Okay, something has gone up and let's take it down. What is the positive feedback? Positive feedback means that something has gone up. Let's make it more high. So negative feedback can say most of things like sweating, sweat, was not sweating, sorry. I mean the temperature control. The temperature control or like osmotic pressure control, which has gone something like high or low. We want to make it stable. Will not make it. So just remember it like that. Positive feedback means moving it away from more away. So it has so I'll just draw a brief graph after some time. Osmotic pressure, say like temperature, osmotic pressure, glucose level. Okay. And what are this were? These were like blood clotting, then oops, blood clotting and something. So how do you differentiate between positive feedback and negative feedback? This is a very easy way. So let's say this is my graph, okay, and this is some say time axis, and this is of my say some measure, okay, the condition. I write the condition. Generally, the condition is in some homeostatic state, which is like something like this. So this is the homeostatic. So we have a homeostatic state. Now, in case of positive feedback, what happens? Say in some time, there is a deviation from this homeostatic state, either increase or it can be it is either increase or it can be a decrease. If there is a negative feedback is there, it is operating here. What we will try to do? It will try to make it at the homeostatic level, both here as well as here. Okay, we try to make it as much possible to the homeostatic state. So this thing is known as both this and this is known as negative feedback, where you are trying to decrease the deviation. Be it decrease the deviation. Okay. Now that's what homeostasis means, right? Always we should try to decrease the deviation and maintain it at some homeostatic level. But now, oops, sorry. So now what happens? So what is the difference with the positive feedback? In a positive feedback, say there is a deviation. Maybe at this time I'll say there is a deviation. Maybe it is decreasing, a deviation, or something is increasing. So something is increasing maybe at this point. Or actually, I'll just get it up a little bit. So something is time has started increasing maybe slowly like this. What the positive or something may be decreasing. What the positive feedback will do? From positive feedback from here, it will increase the rate to some higher level. It's also go to some higher level. Ultimately, so yeah. I mean, ultimately at some time t, it will due to negative feedback. Ultimately, for some time t, it will I'll be like come to the homeostatic state, but at this portion, this particular portion. So this particular portion at this one, there was a positive feedback. That means positive feedback. What does that mean? That means that increase the deviation more. For example, the childbirth. When there is a childbirth, the oxytocin level is increasing, but there is a positive feedback. So the oxytocin level needs to be increased more. Now, after the childbirth happens, ultimately the oxytocin level will reach something else, and there the childbirth happens. And from here, there will be again the negative feedback will come into the place and will again control the deviation. But again, this was decreasing slowly. Suddenly it started increasing because of the positive feedback. So this is how the homeostasis does positive feedback and the negative feedback system works. Positive feedback means increase the deviation. If there is a deviation, increase the deviation more. Negative feedback system means if there is a deviation, decrease the deviation and take it back to the homeostatic state. Okay, so that's why most of the time we will see the negative feedback and positive feedback systems are very rare. Like another example is the blood clotting, because there is blood is oozing out from your cut. So it needs some positive feedback systems to go more and more to release more and more clotting factors from the platelets, so that the blood clotting. But if it is, but then again, the negative control should come back into the picture, because if it is again go like it doesn't come back to the picture again, it doesn't come back to the picture again, then do you think that blood clotting factors are going, then in every year there will be blood clots, right? There should be a specific place where the blood clotting factors should come and bind. If their blood clot stops, then the clotting factors should also go down. So again, always remember that positive feedback is always coupled with a negative feedback. It is never that only negative feedback. The vice versa is not true, but positive feedback is always uh, coupled with a negative feedback. Otherwise, something is deviating, it should again come down. Okay. So then we discussed a little bit about the endocrine system, right? So what does endocrine system do here? Sorry. What does the endocrine system do? So the endocrine system releases this hormones. So what are hormones? Hormones are some factors, some small molecules, which goes and binds to the different organ to release some kind of factors, correct? So then there what are types of hormones also? What are the hormones? Sorry. the- So what are the different organs that are present in the endocrine system? So one very important is the pituitary gland. Then we have the pineal gland here also. We have parathyroid gland as well as thyroid gland. Here, thyroid gland and parathyroid gland. Then we have adrenal gland. We also have pancreas. We have ovary. We have testis, bones. These are the major or like endocrine system organs. Remember, there are other organs also like heart also secretes. Uh, Heart also secretes one hormone, correct? So heart also, which hormone heart does secretes? In I think the circulatory system has been taught. This is the atrial natriuretic peptide, right? The blood secretes. Sorry, the heart secretes the atrial natriuretic peptide. It's a kind of hormone. Okay. And yeah. So then, so uh, what are the different, what do I say? Uh, Hormones that are secreted from this glands. So before I go to the hormones, I should first tell you about the hormone action. Then we will go and discuss the hormones. Okay. So how does hormones? So hormone has a two-layer of regulation. First, the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus will first secrete the releasing hormone. This releasing hormone will act on the pituitary, which have the stimulating hormones like follicle stimulating hormones, thyroid stimulating hormones, adrenocorticotropic stimulating hormones, different stimulating hormones. So from this pituitary gland like the anterior pituitary or pituitary gland, this hormones will like from the especially from the anterior pituitary, the hormones will go and bind to some target endocrine cell. From the target endocrine cell, say maybe this is thyroid. So TSH is going up. So I'll just so from say we from the anterior pituitary, the anterior TSH hormone is going. So this is maybe TSH hormone. This is not TSH. So this is the maybe TSH hormone. This part. And what TSH hormone, the target endocrine cell, maybe the thyroids. The thyroid gland, correct? So in thyroid gland, we have some hormone, and maybe then thyroid gland hormone secretes T3 and T4. This T3 and T4 binds to the target cells. As you can see that hormones are released in a very small quantity but have a profound effect. So there could be control. So there are two layers of control. First, the hypothalamus controls the releasing or secretion of the releasing hormone. Then the pituitary glands from the control the stimulating hormones. Finally, then only the glands that will secrete the original hormones that will actually evolve. So having this kind of multiple what do I say, multiple control in the hormonal system, what does it helps that um, like it helps in the have a proper control over the system, because any unnecessary release of the hormone is not needed, because if the system already in homeostasis, releasing hormones will move it out from the homeostatic state. So cells never want to move it out from this homeostatic state, or the body never wants it to homeostatic out of the homeostatic. So that's why there are multiple layers of control. And yeah, so now we'll come to the different hormones. So from the posterior pituitary, now these are not controlled by the hypothalamus, the releasing hormones. So there are ADH, antidiuretic hormones, as well as oxytocin. What does antidiuretic hormone? Oh, antidiuretic hormone binds to the goes and affects in the kidney, right? Kidney glomerulus. So what does it do? If there is a uh, decrease, there is a decrease in the water level in the body. So the antidiuretic hormone will go and bind to the kidney glomeruli, so that it increases the water absorption by the kidneys. So there is a disease. So that is form that is like that happens due to dysregulation of the sorry, what was going on? Sorry. So antidiuretic hormone, due to some disbalance in the antidiuretic hormone, there is a disease happens. What the disease name is? Plus 10 knowledge. You guys should answer this. It is the diabetes insipidus, correct? When there is a lack of antidiuretic hormone, there's a diabetes insipidus happens where there will be more loss of water from the body, which is different from the diabetes mellitus. Right? Then there is oxytocin. What is oxytocin? It stimulates the uterine contractions because when there is a childbirth, the uterine wall needs to undergo contractions to make sure the baby goes out from the uterus to uterus, and so this kind of contraction helps in the childbirth. Right? Then there is growth hormone. Then from the anterior pituitary lobe, where we have this which are under control of hypothalamus from the releasing hormone. So there will be growth hormone, prolactin, follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, and ACTH. So I'll go the functions. So growth hormone is a stimulates cell division and growth. So it helps in the during the cell cycle. It's during the early growth of this growth ages, like the pure ages when we grow, or that time the growth hormone comes into play. It stimulates more cell division and growth of the body. Prolactin, it initiates milk synthesis. So when when a female is pregnant and the baby needs milk, so it initiates the milk synthesis, and more the baby sucks the mammary glands, the more the prolactin synthesis, prolactin is more synthesized. This is again a example of the positive feedback. As the baby sucks milk from mother, the increase in prolactin level synthesize more milk to feed the baby. Then there are follicle stimulating hormones and luteinizing hormones, which affects on the gonads, the testes, as well as ovary. And then the adrenocorticotropic hormone, it stimulates the secretion from the adrenal cortex, correct? Now, then there is another gland, pineal gland. So there is a melatonin. Melatonin involves in the circadian rhythm or the sleep-wake cycles. So as you know, there Nobel Prize has been given 4 or 5 years back for discovery of the circadian rhythm, and melatonin is one of the hormones that induce. So then thymus gland is there, which it's not very well, but it's a part of the immune system mainly, but it also produces a hormone as thymosin, which stimulates the production of insulin. Then another very important gland, the thyroid gland. Okay. So what does thyroid gland do? So thyroid gland, in presence of thyroid stimulating hormone, it secretes T3 and T4. So this T3 and T4 is increases the metabolic rate, right? Triiodothyronine and as well as the thyroxine or tetraiodothyronine. Okay. Also, it secretes the calcitonin, which stimulates the osteoblasts to remove calcium from the blood and lowering the blood calcium level. Now, thyroid, as you can see, thyroid gland also have something very close by parathyroid glands. The parathyroid gland secretes parathormone, which stimulates osteoclasts to release the stored calcium into the blood, releasing the calcium. And now you can clearly see there is a kind of positive and negative feedback is going here. So when the calcium level goes, I mean, it's not about the positive feedback system in the homeostasis, which is of course negative feedback, but I'm telling about the control in the calcium level. So when there is a decrease in the calcium level in the blood, the parathormone comes into the play. So parathormone stimulate the osteoclasts to release stored calcium into the blood. So it's a positive feedback. Whenever there is a increase in the calcium level, calcitonin comes into place to stimulates the osteoclasts to take the calcium from the blood, and that's lowering the blood calcium level. So again, this calcium is controlled both by calcitonin as well as the parathormone. Okay. Okay. So then there is the adrenal. So there is adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. So from the adrenal cortex, we have two hormones, cortisol as well as the aldosterone. So cortisol, it maintains the blood sugar levels between meals, and then there is the aldosterone. So aldosterone increases the sodium and water reabsorption by kidney. Okay. So basically the electrolyte reabsorption. Okay. Then we have a very famous hormone, the epinephrine and norepinephrine or adrenalins or noradrenalins. So they initiate something known as fight or flight response. Correct. So in this response, they initiate response similar to the sympathetic nervous system, and it's very quick response. So we'll during some tense situation or some excited situation, there'll be adrenaline rush in the body, and that will stimulate our body to have like to have more excited or be like something like to fight or like have flight, like some excited situation, some tense situation to taken aback. Okay. This is the fight or flight response, the non-adrenals. Then there is pancreas. Now in pancreas, there will be three hormones, glucagon, insulin, and somatostatin. The function of somatostatin is not yet properly characterized. It's thought to be uh, controlling the levels of both glucagon and insulin, but its function is still not properly. So the pancreas have two hormones, glucagon and insulin. Again, there is a positive and negative feedback. Whenever there is a decrease in the blood glucose level, for example, someone is fasting, there is decrease in the blood glucose level. So what glucagon will do? Glucagon will stimulate the adipocytes as well as liver and liver to increase more, with like deplete the glycogen storage as well as fat storage to form more glucose and release more glucose in the body, because as you know, the many of our organs, especially brain cannot function without glucose. So only carbohydrate brain can metabolize is the glucose, right? Then we have insulin. So insulin, it decreases the blood glucose level and make sure blood is stored. So in absence of insulin, insulin, there will be type 1 diabetes, diabetes mellitus, and in absence of insulin effectivity. Remember that, just focus on that now. In absence of total insulin, when there is a problem in the pancreatic beta cells, pancreatic alpha cells secretes glucagon, pancreatic beta cells secretes insulin. When there is a problem in the pancreatic beta cells where it cannot secrete the insulin, which is the autoimmune disorder where the pancreatic beta cells are killed by our immune system, the diabetes mellitus type 1, so autoimmune disorders, the blood insulin itself is not present. So in these cases, it's the treatment is to give more insulin so that the blood can check up the glucose. There is no problem in the insulin receptors. In type 2 diabetes mellitus, what happens? There is a problem in the insulin effectivity. So there is a problem in the insulin receptors. But there are several studies that how does diabetes mellitus get controlled. One of the studies shows that due to fat accumulation, sometimes this fat goes and block this glucose transporters so that the insulin cannot, and as well as the insulin receptors, so that this cannot affect. So, so that's why people ask them to exercise more, because then the non-insulin dependent glucose transport, glucagon starts expressing the cells, which will take up the blood glucose from the body. So that's why the people with diabetes mellitus type 2, where we have a problem in insulin effectivity, whereas insulin is not effective enough, or insulin's effectivity decrease. The doctors ask them to do exercise, right? So then we have ovaries. Ovaries are so these are gonads. So for female gonads, gonads there will be ovaries, right? So ovary will secrete estrogen, as well as progesterone. So estrogen, both of these are uh, helps in development of the female reproductive system, and as well as the uh, female menstrual cycle or female periods is controlled by the estrogen and progesterone level, which is again controlled by the follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, which is a support which can be like reproductive system has not been taught in there. So which is another like totally different as a topic of the discussion, can be a topic of discussion in the cells. Okay. Okay. So, and which can be like how this is controlled is a very interesting feature. So how does this estrogen progesterone levels are controlled by the luteinizing hormone as well as the follicle stimulation. Then in the ovaries, we are then in the testes, we have testosterone. So testosterone is a male reproductive hormone which stimulates the development of the male reproductive system. Okay. So yeah, so these are the main hormones that we have in our body. And so yeah. So then next what we should do is we should solve some of those questions from the this part. So oh sorry. No, okay. So endocrine system will stop here, and I would like to know if you have any doubt regarding the endocrine system. Yes. Sorry, my mic was turned off. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah. So we'll start now with the excretory system. So briefly, I'll just describe excretory system because it's already has been described. So human excretory system has the main organ of the human excretory system is the kidney. Then we have the ureter, the urinary bladder, as well as the urethra. So, and the renal vein as well as the renal artery comes and goes into the kidney. So kidney is the main organ of the excretory system. It has renal cortex and the renal medulla. In this renal cortex, we have this major calyx as the minor cortex, and in the kidney, the filtration unit of the kidney is the glomerulus. So what does glomerulus? How does glomerulus look? So in this renal medulla, there are renal pyramids, and inside renal pyramids, we have this glomerulus. So, sorry, I mean the filtration unit is the nephron. Sorry, the filtration unit is the nephron, and nephron are made up of multiple glomerular structures. Okay. So in that glomerular structure, so in that nephron, we have the glomerulus here, which there is unfiltered blood and there is the filtered blood. At different part of this tube on the nephron, different electrolytes as well as different water, different electrolytes, different nutrients are absorbed as well as reabsorbed. And here, then it's go and bind to the goes through the collecting duct to the uterine exit duct. So ultimately, all it is filtered here in this part. Here, inside there will be millions of nephron here, and in this nephron there will be glomerulus. In this glomerulus, there will be filters. The blood is filtered as well as nutrients are reabsorbed and all. So after that, so here the blood is filtered, right? The unfiltered blood, the filtered blood. In the filtered blood, then many things are reabsorbed. Many nutrients like water, sodium, potassium, glucose are again reabsorbed through this blood, so that there is not excess loss of any kind of electrolytes or nutrients, right? Then this filtered, the unfiltered blood comes like this through the renal artery. Unfiltered blood comes to the renal artery and goes out through the renal vein. Okay, like this. Now, yeah, so this is the main thing about the excretory system. Just one slide, I will just briefly explaining. So that's why. And in next we'll some we'll just and you know that there will be there was other things where as already been discussed, like ammonotelic, ureotelic animals. So the humans are ureotelic because we secrete urea. Birds are uricotelic, uric acid, and like that. There are ammonotelic animals also. So I'm not going to details of that because it has been already discussed in the class itself. So yeah, so we'll solve some of the questions. So cortisol is produced by pituitary gland, thyroid gland, adrenal cortex, and mammary gland. So cortisol, or also known as corticosterone, correct? So So which does it produce? It is produced by pituitary glands, thyroid glands, adrenal cortex, and mammary glands. It is produced by adrenal glands, which controls the glucose level between these. This function. Yeah. Oh, there is a. It's a. There was a mistake in the question. The T4 hormone is released by thyroid glands is thyroxine, iodothyronine. Just okay, iodothyroxine, iodothyronine, triiodothyronine. So this triiodothyronine is T3 and thyroxine is T4 or tetraiodothyronine, the T4 thyroxine. So T4 hormone is released in the thyroid glands are is the thyroxine. So they what does they do? Increase the metabolic rate. The adrenocorticotropic hormone is produced in the thyroid gland, suprarenal gland, pancreatic gland, as well as or the pituitary gland. And you guys should tell this. Okay. So adrenocorticotropic hormone is produced by the pituitary gland. The anterior pituitary. You remember this, right? Anterior pituitary gland. There is the adrenocorticotropic hormone. All the trophic hormones. If there is a SCR, if they have a release SCRH, right? And yeah, so they go and bind to the adrenal cortex to stimulate uh, cortisol as well as the aldosterone. Insulin is a hormone that is produced produced in dash responsible for regulating blood glucose level. Insulin produced by which organ? Liver, pancreas, stomach, or kidneys? Those were quite easy. Should a very easy one. So insulin is produced by pancreas, right? Pancreas produce pancreatic beta cells and alpha cells produce glucagon. The excretory organs in the platyhelminthes are known as antennal glands, fame cells, Malpighian tubes, kidneys. It's lymph cells, right? Platyhelminthes. The antennal glands are present as external organs in earthworms, prawns, planaria, honeybees. So antennal glands are present in the crustaceans. Just the crustaceans, arthropoda, right? So crustaceans, which one is the correct answer? Earthworm, prawns, which one is some of them are crustaceans? Prawns, right? Prawns are the crustaceans. So and then there is the excretory organ present in the prawns. Testosterone is secreted by suprarenal gland, hypothalamus, testis, or thyroid. Testosterone is the male reproductive hormone, correct? It is a male reproductive hormone. It's present in the testis because testis is the main reproductive organ. Low production of thyroid is related to which disorder? The Gaucher disease, Cushing syndrome, goiter, or Niemann-Pick disease. It says goiter. Okay. They will have the swallowing, throat, like guyler gland gets swollen throat, eyes enlarged, like this. Those are the symptoms of the goiter. The target organ of oxytocin is spleen, uterine smooth muscle, liver, kidney. What does oxytocin do? It helps in childbirth, right? Childbirth during labor. So what is helps in childbirth? Oxytocin, how it helps? It contracts the uterine muscles, right? So then the target organ of oxytocin should be uterine smooth muscle because it helps in childbirth, and I don't think spleen, liver, or kidney anytime is related with childbirth. So, which hormone is responsible for fight and flight response? Aldosterone, cortisol, epinephrine and norepinephrine, or insulin? It's secreted from the adrenal medulla. Correct? So these two hormones, both of these hormones are from adrenal cortex. These are from adrenal medulla. And this is from pancreas, correct? Beta cells of pancreas. Is the correct answer? Fight or flight response? Say that we are having adrenaline rush. What is that? Please here. Correct answer is the epinephrine and norepinephrine. In a biological system, the preservation of a steady internal environment independent of external variable is called systemic imbalance stimuli control. It's the homeostasis. That's what homeostasis means. Uricotelic excretion happens in birds and by human scorpion. That's in birds. Human is Hypotonic. First, it secretes urea. Yes, I think. So yeah, so that's where we stop for this TH sessions. We have discussed about the homeostasis. Homeostasis is maintained by the endocrine system by controlling different types of metabolic as well as stimuli, and then we discussed a little bit about excretory system. How does excretory system control the homeostasis by taking out all the waste materials, right? So, homeostasis is the thing that is controlled by all the system, right? Every system is responsible for controlling the homeostasis. Yes, right. Muscular system is also, because if you don't walk, run, that is also kind of controlling homeostasis. It's not very directly. The cardiovascular system is also present the homeostasis. It's also controlling the homeostasis because blood is like oxygen. Heart is controlling the heart rate. The blood is controlling the heart is controlling the heart rate. Nervous system, of course, it's controlling the homeostasis. That is it's one of the work in your. And it's controlling by the endocrine system and excretory system also. Yeah. So that's all for week 11, and so I hope there is no doubt. If any doubt is there, please you can tell now, or you can contact me in the email ID. Yeah, so that's where we stop. Thank you for joining. Meet next week.